The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. Now you could just say, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, and I have promises to keep. Promises. You could do that. But you would be a modern college professor if you acted like that. If you just ignored the sing-songy quality of the poem and tried to read it as if it were just a paragraph out of a book, you would be disgusting. You have to go with the rhythm and rhyme of the poem. Ignoring the rhythm and rhyme of the poem is ignoring the poem. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Now, just a quick note of caution to the would-be poets. If you're thinking, or if you are a poet, or you want to try writing poems, don't break grammar to make a line work. Your lines should be grammatically whole. You should have a complete thought, and then when you pause and break, when the beat or whatever demands that you break and go to the next one, your grammar should reflect that. You should reflect, okay, there's our idea, break. And the grammar should then start again, instead of breaking in the middle where you have to pause and let the line finish its musical thing, then you go to the next line, and there's a skip in the grammar. It's an incomplete thought followed by a thought that starts out incomplete. So it's just bad taste. Now, it's been done, and even some of the greatest poets in history have done it, but it detracts from the quality of the work. Interrupting grammar in order to make the line correctly rhyme is an interruption of the poem, because the poem isn't just the qualities of rhyme. The poem is also the qualities of the ideas. So if you take the ideas and you misform or shape them or interrupt them to stop them or whatever, to hang, the ideas are left hanging over the edge of this precipice while you go to finish the next line, you leave the grammar hanging, you're making the musical quality more important than the prose quality. But a poem can't be divorced like that. It is prose plus music. So you can't beat up on the music quality and leave it out, and you can't beat up on the prose quality and leave it out. You have to be grammatically correct to get your idea across so that the person can think, the reader can actually pay attention to what you're saying. So you have to be grammatically correct, and you have to have some sort of rhyme, rhythm, or beat, or it's not a poem. Now this isn't to say that every single line has to be a complete sentence or a complete thought. But the ideas in the line have to match the rhythm or beat so that you can keep the beat and still get the idea. You don't want the beat of the poem and the ideas in the poem to be mismatched. You want them to match. That would be a good poem, we would say, is a poem where the ideas match with the beat. And I've got an example where it doesn't, coming up here. Now, pausing at the end of a line for the next line can cause a loss of the thought if the grammar fails to break in the same way as the poem's rhythm breaks. And here's an example from Emily Dickinson, from a poem self-titled, I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died. So let's just read this one little stanza here. I think it's a one-stanza poem. I think this is the whole poem. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portions of me I could make assignable, and then there interposed a fly. Did you get that? I'll do it one more time there. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portions of me I could make assignable, and then there interposed a fly. Now let's try it without paying attention to the poetic qualities. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portions of me I could make assignable, and then there interposed a fly. Now, if you read it like that, it destroys the poetic quality. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portions of me I could make assignable, and then there interposed a fly. I mean, that's nothing. It's not even a poem. You have to break it, and it breaks the grammar. And I think that this is an example. It's cute. It's Emily Dickinson, and you can use the appeal to authority and respond to me and say it's a good poem because she's an authority. You can do that. But I say I'm an authority too, and my authoritative version says it's not a good poem because it breaks grammar. Now another example, besides breaking grammar in the middle of a line, is a halfway rhyme, a rhyme that doesn't rhyme. As Peikoff said in his course on poetry, he said, I can stomach one or two of those, but it's just death to a poem. It's just death. You might as well not rhyme at all if you're going to do halfway rhymes, like food, good, or ran and town. Those don't rhyme. Now, that's what makes such a classical and pleasurable read out of a good poem is the rhymes work. Now, I believe that the evidence is available to anyone's ears in poetry, that you don't have to take my word for it for what a poem is or anybody else's word for it. A poem is obvious. The qualities of poetry are obvious to anyone listening to it. Good poetry exhibits the qualities of music, and the public at large still understands this. Just listen to the top 40 sometime. Go to any station, except possibly NPR, and see what you get on those stations, besides NPR. Any top 40 station, you're going to get songs that rhyme, because the public at large has not been corrupted by university, and they still believe in rhyming, rhythm, beat, meter, etc. So it's almost an ivory tower disease, this adoration of E. E. Cummings and Kandinsky, who was a painter, yes. Now the reason that the public hasn't foregone this pleasure, the reason that they haven't woken up, even though E. E. Cummings, was writing 30 years ago, or 50 or 70 or whenever, even though these ideas have been around for a long time, the public still does not care for a song that doesn't rhyme. And that rhymed. So the reason for this is because the joy of poetry, the joy inside of it, what we like about it, is a sensory pleasure. It's a pleasure for your five senses, not all of them, but one of them. You don't have to study some philosopher or attend a lecture on the qualities of good poetry. You can hear a good poem. You don't have to be highly educated to appreciate a poem that rhymes. A child can like a poem that rhymes, because rhyme and rhythm and meter and beat are sugar for your ears. Just like a beautiful woman's face for your eyes, and a massage for your tired muscles, and sugar on your tongue, and poetry in your ear, and music in your ear, just as such. So let's note that it is mostly in the universities today that they read E. E. Cummings and James Joyce and whatever other corrupt people. And this is not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. An appreciation for tempo and melody and so on comes naturally to the human brain. It's like sugar. You don't learn to appreciate sugar. Sugar tastes good. You don't learn to appreciate warmth. You feel good when you're warm. Hypothermia is bad for the human body. We like sugar. We like beat. We like rhyme, rhythm, meter. It all comes very naturally to us, so it doesn't take indoctrination to like poetry. It takes indoctrination to deny it, though. You have to be corrupted in order to deny the value of poetry. And so with that, I think that we can finish our installations on poetry, and I'll read, just to finish us off, the last one here. Poetry's Virtue, a poem by myself, which I read, I believe, at the beginning of this installment. So, what sanctifies poetry? What is its virtue? What brings a good line to life? What makes a good rhyme ring true? Music is sugar for the ear. A poem is sweet in this way. Rhyme is sugar one hears. Meter is words' joyful play. A poem with no rhyme or time in its verse sours the ear, same as a curse.